Hello everyone, my name is Bushra Khawaja. I'm one of the GP leads at RM Partners Cancer Alliance, and I'm also a GP in Hillingdon. So it's my pleasure today to do a demonstration for this much anticipated breast screening dashboard, which is on the WSIC analytic guest site. So it's part of the WSIC dashboard. We do have similar dashboards for bowel screening and cervical screening, which have been in use and provide useful data for a while. So it's great to have this data available for breast screening as well now. I am going to move straight on to sharing my screen and have a look at the dashboard. So this is the homepage for the WSIC dashboard. So you would select primary care, and then the second option is breast cancer screening dashboard. As you can see, different sections are available. So we've got breast screening demographics, summary, trends, and then it talks about data for those 72 years and above. Let's start off with the breast screening summary section. There it is. So we'll start off by looking at the grey bar at the top. So that allows you to go between the different sections of the screening summary, demographics, trends, etc. If we move down to the purple bar, this, if we move across to the right, gives us the last date and time when the data was refreshed. And as we can see, we have today's date there. So it was last refreshed at 3:03 today. If we move across to the right, we have an eye, which if we hover over it, it will take us to links to WSIC dashboard user guides, as well as WSIC dashboard user videos. So they are quite helpful. So please do have a look at those. If we move lower down to this section here, we can see that the data can be filtered by borough, PCN, neighborhood, GP practice, age, deprivation, ethnicity, etc. So just to demonstrate how the filter function would work, I'm going to just click on borough, click on all to remove all, and select, let's just go with, I'm in Hillingdon, so let's go with Hillingdon, and we've got to remember to click apply. Okay, so now we're looking at data for Hillingdon. And if we want to reset the filters, we go back to this purple bar, we would just click on reset all filters, and that would bring us back to removing filters. So for a moment, I'm just going to go back to Hillingdon data. So this section here at the top gives us a snapshot of what's happening in the borough. So we've got the breast screening cohort. So that's the women who are eligible, and we've got over 35,000 people who are eligible. At the moment, we've got, so green, the screened cohort. So that's 57.5%, and the amber, 42.5%, the non-screened cohort. If we move down, this bar again gives us the summary of the screened cohort. Here, the three bars here breaks down the practices in how we're doing. So at the moment, we've only got one practice with a percentage coverage more than 69.9%. If you remember, I said that 70% was the acceptable level. And then we've got 13 practices in the mid-range, so with a coverage of 59.7 to 69.9, and then 28 practices with a coverage of less than 59.7%. In the bottom left-hand corner, we've got coverage broken down in age cohorts. And here in the center bottom, we've got coverage broken down in deprivation deciles. And although there are some exceptions, in general, we can see here at the bottom at 10, so the least deprived cohort tend to have better uptake compared to as you move up towards the most deprived. If we look on the right-hand side, we have data broken down at practice level. This blue line represents 80%, so that's the achievable target of 80%. I'm now going to move across to look at the demographics section. So we'll just click on demographics here at the top. Now, this is a particularly useful section for people who are looking to work with cohorts who are not doing so well with their screening. So this breaks down the screening coverage in terms of age, ethnicity, and long-term condition, as well as deprivation decile. So here on the left, we can see the coverage broken down with age. If we look here at the bottom, it looks like the lower age groups are not taking up the screening because we've got lots of ambers and not so much green. But actually, we've got to remember that it does take about 3 years, so from 50 to 53 for the invites to get sent out. So it could be that we just haven't got to all of those patients yet. In the center here, we've got the data broken down by ethnic background. So if we just take an example here, so we've got Asian Pakistani population with a coverage of screened coverage of 50.3%, which, as we can see, compared to the average in the borough, is a lot lower. So that could be a group that requires targeting. If we look here in the top right-hand section, we've got screening coverage broken down in long-term conditions. Not all long-term conditions are included, and the ones that are included tend to be grouped. So, for example, with the cardiovascular, that would include things like atrial fibrillation, hypertension, ischemic heart disease, and potential mobility would include things like neurological conditions and rheumatological conditions. Now, it's worth noticing here that there are certain groups that we do see repeatedly have a lower uptake when it comes to screening. So just highlighting here the mental health conditions cohort and the learning disabilities cohort. Although the numbers are small, often we find that these two cohorts have a lower than average uptake of screening compared to the background population. And then again, here at the bottom right, we've got information broken down on the deprivation deciles. Moving across on the grey bar to the next section, looking at screening trends. As the dashboard is quite new at the moment, we've only got the data and the trends for these 3 months. Over time, we'll be able to see the trends over the last 12 months. The next 2 sections will give data on patients who have been screened at age 72 and above. So these patients are above the screening age. As I mentioned, screening is till 71, but patients can still contact the screening hub after this age to have their screening done if they wish to. The last thing I'm going to highlight before handing over is this final section of exporting data. So you can download and export various parts of the dashboard. Please do look at the user guides for further details. But just as an example, for this data that I've got up at the moment, if I click on this arrow, it then gives me the option of downloading either in Excel or CSV. So I've got Excel selected here, and if I click download, then I have the data available in an Excel sheet, which is just coming up here. So that brings us to the end of the demonstration. So I'll stop sharing